So I know everyone recently has been just taking a dump on The Walking Dead, which is a real shame because that used to be one of my all-time favorite TV shows, especially seasons 1 and 2, and now every American is talking about how sick they are of zombies, and I do recognize that the genre has a lot that can be improved upon, but I'm definitely anything but sick of zombies. Zombies were one of the scariest movie monsters or just monsters from literature since I was a young kid. One of the scariest movies I think that I've ever seen was I Am Legend with Will Smith, which that movie I think came out when I was about 10 years old and was one of the most terrifying things at the time. Now, maybe I was just young and impressionable, but zombies were always the one creature that really scared me. Werewolves, vampires, I mean Frankenstein. That was never really scared of me. I just don't get why people were afraid of that. I know it was a different generation and they didn't have the same kind of special effects and all the technology we have now to make them scary. And there have been scary vampire movies that have come out recently. But I mean, the old school werewolves and vampires coming out of tombs and stuff, that's not scary. That's cartoonish. That's like Halloween costume stuff. But zombies, I mean, zombies are actually something with a bit more nuance behind them. Especially in this day and age, people are getting a lot more creative. But I just don't see the genre living up to its potential, except I have seen some promise recently. Now, I will say, I'm sorry if I offend the old school people, but Romero-age zombies, may he rest in peace, are just not scary. They're no longer scary. I'm sorry. I watched The Night of the Living Dead. I've seen the original, yes. I've seen the remake, and they're just not scary. I'm sorry. The slow, lumbering caricature of a zombie, that's just not scary to me. I don't understand why that would give people nightmares. I mean, you could just outrun them. You could easily kill them, especially in this day and age. Everyone has a gun or some weapon that you could use to take out a zombie. And it wouldn't take long for people to figure out that you got to shoot them in the head, and if you get bit, you turn. Tell me, what exactly is scary about you getting bit by a creature? You get a fever, you get sick, you slowly start to get flu-like symptoms, and then you just die, and then your body is reanimated by the virus or whatever it is, a supernatural force maybe, but you're no longer there. It's just the virus using your body as a host. And maybe that is disturbing on some level. Maybe to think that some pathogen could be using your friends and family's bodies to reanimate and attack you. Yes, that is disturbing on some level, but it's just, once the virus takes over your mind, you're gone. You're just dead forever. Or, I don't know, maybe if there's an afterlife, you'd be watching your dead body that's animated by a pathogen kill people from wherever you are. I don't know, maybe that's disturbing to you. But if you think about it, that's really not all that different from real life. What happens to us in, just as humans, we die and our bodies can spread diseases after we die. I mean, that's that's been known throughout history for at least thousands of years. Knights in medieval Europe, when they were sieging a castle, they would catapult dead bodies infected with the plague over the walls so that they would slowly infect the city and take them out from the inside. So I mean, what's so scary exactly about you dying? You have no control of your mental faculties. You're out of your body forever, and just a pathogen takes it over. That's not really that different from real life. Now, I know a huge factor in the disturbing nature of the old school zombie films was sort of the collapse of society and the sort of release of the inner mechanisms of what goes on in, a person's mind and what people really become when society collapses. But you could show that in pretty much any other post-apocalyptic genre. It doesn't necessarily have to be zombies to show that people kind of suck sometimes. And if there wasn't society or civilization, then yeah, a lot of psychopaths would be running wild. But you don't need zombies for that. Now, I'll tell you what really changed the game for me, I think, was 28 Days Later and its sequel 28 Weeks Later. I actually saw 28 Weeks Later first, so I know maybe it's a bit before my time. I mean, it's kind of an old movie, but I think what was really frightening about 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later is that the zombies, weren't really quote unquote zombies. And I know there are a lot of zombie purists out there who will claim that, oh, they have to be dead and it just has to be the brain taken over by a pathogen. If they're alive, they're not really a zombie. But I mean, whatever, definitions of words change over time. So I think that's really dumb. You don't have to call them, infected, even though that's what they call them in the movies. You can just refer to them as zombies. It's not strictly speaking just for that one definition. After all, the word zombie originated from, Haitian voodoo slaves. So definitions do change over time, of course. But what was really scary about the infected in 28 Days Later was the fact that they were still alive. And if you get infected, not only are you still conscious and aware of what you're doing, but you just lose total control over your emotions and any kind of self-control that you have. I think that's what's really scary to people, that you'd actually be conscious during this whole experience. So it's like the whole zombie thing where your brain gets taken over, but it's like constant, unending torture, and you're doing something even though you don't want to do it. And I'm sure we can all relate to that on some level. Like, we've all been really drunk or something, and so we know what it's like to be in your body but to be out of control. And really, that's something that we can't even imagine. We can't even imagine being in a situation like that. I guess it'd be like being drunk 24/7, and instead of wanting to give your friends a hug and tell them that you love them, you want to kill them and bite them and rip them limb from limb and spread the infection. But you're still conscious of it, and you're aware of what you're doing, maybe even a little remorseful. Or what could be more disturbing is that maybe the virus twists your mind so that you actually enjoy doing all this killing. And I think maybe that's what goes on with the 28 Days Later rage virus. Now, I do notice that they actually are catching on to this in overseas zombie films, which really haven't taken off until the past 10 years or so. And there was this one zombie movie that came out in Japan based on this manga called I Am a Hero. And it's really, really disturbing on a lot of levels, and I'll tell you why. I mean, you will need subtitles to watch it if you're not Japanese, but I'd say it's worth it because in the movie, I won't spoil it, but in the movie, the zombies, they aren't your normal, lumbering, slow, brain-dead zombies like in George A. Romero films. They're actually a lot more robust. They're very... Well, the scariest thing about them is that it would appear that once you become infected with this virus, you're still very much aware of what you're doing. And these zombies in the movie, once they turn, you'll hear them. They still talk. They still scream. They still just say really, really random, weird stuff that's, again, you'd need subtitles to understand it. The first time I saw the movie, I didn't have subtitles on, so I sort of just had to guess what they're saying. But with the subtitles, it's like they say some really just weird, out-of-the-box stuff. I mean, it's a Japanese movie. You can expect as much, but I really recommend that you watch it. And so it shows that these zombies, either there's two options. Either the human soul or consciousness that's in the body is gone, and it's just the virus that's sort of picking up on what's left over in the brain and just spewing it out. Or the more disturbing option is that the soul or consciousness of the human is still inside the brain, and they're still somewhat aware of going on. That's why they can still talk and form sentences and still have some aspect of their personality left over. And I will say another movie that very recently came out last month, I just saw it last night actually, was Patient Zero. and it wasn't a great film. I'm no film critic. It was okay. It was okay, but it had so many fascinating concepts in it that just totally totally blows out the vanilla zombies out of the water. In this film, it's the classic rage virus zombie, where they're fast, aggressive, they're still beating. You don't need a headshot to kill them. Again, I think the headshot thing, that's kind of stupid. I don't know. I think that you should just be able to shoot them anywhere because zombies really, I mean, they're just people, right? So they wouldn't have any special abilities. They're just people that just so happen to be dead. So how could their limbs be moving if they didn't have blood flowing through their veins and oxygenating the cells? It just doesn't make sense. So why would you need that? It doesn't make sense. Another reason why I don't like the classic Romero zombies where they're dead, it just doesn't make sense from any biological standpoint whatsoever. But again, in this movie, Patient Zero, it actually came out straight to DVD, so I watched it that way. And in the film, they're classic raid zombie infected. And the thing is, though, once you become infected, it's like you form this new society. Because the infected, they can communicate with each other. And on some level, they're still human, but in a different way. Sort of like I talked about on my main channel, I talked about the Neanderthal and how they went extinct from competition with humans. So it's sort of like that in that they're, forming a new species. I don't know how a virus could cause you to mutate to a new species, but that's what they say in the film. So I guess as the infected, they're competing with humans, and, we as normal people see them as obviously barbaric and violent and cruel, but, they have their own agenda, and they want to take over the humans, and they're still somewhat conscious. The vast majority of these infected, these zombies, they just act like mindless animals, but it is shown that they can think and use weapons, and there's even one... no spoilers here, I guess. I mean, it's not that great. The only reason I'm talking about it is because of the interesting concepts. But the so-called alpha zombie, he can communicate with our main character. Our main character was also infected with the virus, but he didn't actually turn. He just, maybe turned a little bit. He's immune, so he can communicate. He can speak the language of these infected. And so he's talking to the alpha zombie, who's also somewhat intelligent, but the virus took over more of his body, but he has more control. He's less aggressive, less animalistic than the majority of the infected. Another concept that they brought up in this movie that I thought was really interesting is like how the virus, because the people that it infects are still alive, even after they've got the virus in their brain, they have enhanced senses, more that are more animal-like. So their hearing is better, smelling is better. Well, I presume. I don't really know if they touched on that in the movie. Excuse me, but their hearing is better. So what they do to sort of stun the zombies, they play loud music, which for a person that wouldn't really affect them at all. But these infected, they sort of use that as a torture method. And our main character, who's has a little bit of the virus in his system, he speaks to them, and he's trying to find out where the quote unquote patient zero is, which is the name of the movie. In the end, it's not really that important, the whole tracking down the patient zero thing. I mean, like I said, the movie is not great. It's kind of, there just seems to be no point to it, because they're trying to look for the patient zero, which, I mean, it's going to be impossible, because 99% of the planet, 99.99% of the planet has been infected, so almost everyone's dead. I mean, there's no point in trying to find the patient zero for the vaccine. What's the point? Just hide out your days and, try and, I don't know, make a moon colony or something. But needless to say, so in the movie, they actually somewhat get a cure from his blood because he's immune, and they give it to his wife, and then that kind of works. So, I mean, what's the point? What's the point of finding patient zero? But okay, I'm just rambling now. But what another interesting concept is that the main character, he actually has sex with a normal, uninfected human, right? And then she gets pregnant, which I thought was really weird. Like, if our main character had the virus in his system, wouldn't she get infected then too? Sort of like in 28 weeks later. But I don't know. I guess the infant will be like a zombie human hybrid, kind of like the main character. And I don't know, maybe we'll be an ambassador between these two new species, the humans and the infected that will spring up. So, I mean, that's a really interesting concept. That's not just brain dead zombies lumbering around, because, I mean, oh, and also another thing that bugs me almost always in these classic zombie movies, it's shown that the main villain isn't the zombies, it's humans. I mean, we're tired of hearing about how man is the true villain of society or whatever, because we have to deal with that kind of stuff in real life every single day. Yeah, you know what we don't have to deal with every day? Zombies, which is why the genre was originally so horrifying and unique, but now we just get bashed over the head with social commentary about how humans are so bad and how, I guess, without society, we're just gonna rape and kill everyone. I do agree that there would be a lot of raping and killing, just because there'd be a lot of psychopaths around, and they wouldn't be held back by the constraints of civilization we have now, like laws and, social structure. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't need to hear about how bad and stupid humans are in zombie movies. The villain in zombie movies should be the zombies, in my opinion. I think that's why The Walking Dead has gotten so stale, because the zombies are no longer the villain. They're no longer a threat. They're no longer scary, unless, I don't know, I guess an actor's contract runs up, like Carl, and that's why they killed his character off. Spoilers, I guess. I don't think anyone cares. Again, another movie that I recommend you guys should watch if you're a huge fan of zombies, but you think the genre has gotten really, really tired and played out lately. I recommend you watch the movie The Girl with All the Gifts. It's a British film, originally a novel, and it's actually really new. So, I mean, the special effects and everything is top-notch. It's actually a really good movie, and it's really, this one's actually really depressing. And the unique aspect of this movie is that the zombies, instead of it being a virus, it's a fungus. Sort of like The Last of Us. People say that the movie ripped off The Last of Us, actually, but I don't think so. I think they sort of went in a different direction. So in this movie, The Girl with All the Gifts, so the normal zombies, right, the normal fungal zombies, once you get infected, I believe the host human does die. So they're gone. You don't have to worry about being endlessly tortured while, being a passenger in your own body while your body kills people and rips them to shred, and you can just watch and, watch on in horror. So they're dead, right? The fungus takes over their body and slowly mutates it until, there's no more human tissue left and it's just pure fungus. But what's really interesting is there's these kids that are sort of the human fungus hybrids, because in the womb, while they were in the womb of their mothers were infected. And so instead of the fungus devouring the brain and replacing it, it sort of grew with the brain as this symbiotic relationship. So these human fungus hybrids that are all children, because the infection had only spread like a decade before, so they're all under 10 years old. And so the scientists that are studying them still don't really know what are they going to turn into, because they're still children. But it is clear that they do have the feral, aggressive instincts of the fungus-infected former humans, except they can still talk and have the capacity to reason, and the way that they keep them from lashing out and acting on these instincts is they hide the scent of the normal unaffected humans, because if they smell the humans, then that's when they go crazy. And that's a really interesting concept. That's a heck of a lot more interesting than just, the virus goes to your brain, and then you die, and then, you're just dead forever. It's done. And, your body is just used as a host. That's just not scary. So yeah, basically, the gist of this video, I know it's very rambly, but the reason zombie movies aren't scary anymore is because they're just tired and old, and in this age of technology and smartphones and tiny attention spans, we're just not going to be scared by the old, brainless, lumbering, slow zombies that, were created in the 60s. That's just not scary anymore. They need something new. Anything new. Either, whether it be like, the fungus zombies, or like Patient Zero, where there are intelligent zombies and they carve their own civilization and they hate humans and they want to conquer humans because, just because they have their own society, their own culture, their own civilization, and they deem humans to be a threat. Or whether it be like I Am a Hero, the Japanese zombie movie, which I really, really recommend that you guys see that movie. Whether it be like that one, where the zombies still have some cognitive thought, and even the zombies in that movie, the main character, okay, I guess spoiler alert for the first 20 minutes, the main character's girlfriend gets infected, and she actually calls the guy and tells him to come over to her apartment, and so he goes over there, and by the time he gets there, she's like already completely turned. So that's a really interesting concept of like the infected thinking in advance and thinking like, oh yeah, I'll use the phone, which is something that Romero zombies just would never do. And so that, I think, in order to make zombies scarier, you gotta give them some depth, and you can put in your social commentary, your message, sure, you can throw that in there if you want. Just make the zombies more interesting. So, I sure hope you guys enjoyed this more out there video. I know it's not really what I normally talk about, but, I thought it sort of tied in. So, go ahead and, everyone, let me know your thoughts on modern zombie movies, why they suck so much, because I think we can all agree that zombie movies and zombie TV shows, they just kind of suck. Like, Fear the Walking Dead, well, at least in my circle that I'm around, people, it's a joke. People just don't find it entertaining. They certainly don't find it scary. It hasn't been scary for a long, long time. So let me know your thoughts on what can be done to improve the zombie genre, and check out those movies I recommended, and let me know your thoughts on those. As always, thanks for watching, everyone. This has been Mason, and I'll see you next time.